Selamat pagi. Pada November 2008 silam, Presiden Amerika George W. Bush mengundang seluruh pemimpin G20 untuk membahas terkait dengan perubahan ekonomi dan krisis ekonomi, salah satunya di Amerika Serikat. Sejak saat itu, pertemuan G20 terus berlangsung. Sampai dengan tahun ini, Indonesia memegang presidensi G20 dan membahasnya, salah satunya dengan negara Amerika Serikat. Lalu bagaimana Indonesia dan Amerika Serikat membahas pemulihan ekonomi, terutama di tengah pandemi? Kita akan membahasnya dengan Duta Besar Amerika Serikat untuk Indonesia, His Excellency Ambassador Kim. A very good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Duta Besar Kim.
Yes.
Hashtag Duta Besar Kim. Thank you very much for having us here for this interview, Indonesia G20 presidency.
Thank you.
Okay, and Ambassador, this is our great opportunity. Indonesia is hosting the G20 summit. We are facing different challenges, right? Amidst the pandemic COVID-19. We are highlighting Recover Together, Recover Stronger with two formats, from finance track and Sherpa track. How do you see this format, Ambassador?
Well, thank you very much for the question. So we support Indonesia's presidency of the G20. This is a pivotal moment in global economic recovery. And frankly, I can't think of a more compelling theme than Recover Together and Recover Stronger. I believe that the US and Indonesia both have an important role to play in contributing to the global economic recovery. The first step is that we need to stay focused on building a stronger global health infrastructure, including, of course, robust financing for how we will deal with pandemics in the future, because I don't think pandemics have disappeared completely. And in that regard, Secretary of State Blinken commended how Indonesia was using its G20 leadership to move us forward in building a stronger global health infrastructure. So that's great, and we applaud Indonesia's efforts. More broadly, in terms of economic recovery, I think how countries actually harness and promote innovation, especially in sectors like energy transitions and digital, will make a huge difference in terms of how we recover as an international community. In that regard, I'm excited that the US is working with Indonesia and other key partners in the region on the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which is designed to address some of the key challenges that we face together on ensuring that there are adequate rules for the digital economy, making sure that we have strong and resilient supply chains, and of course, promoting energy transitions. So many important themes to the G20 presidency, but also what we're trying to do with the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework.
So as you mentioned before, we are focused also about digital transformation, global economic, and also health infrastructure. If we are summarized about that one, we are focusing about our bilateral relations. We have been building. And now we will celebrate more than 70 years, right now, with long bilateral relation between two countries. If we consider to combine the population between two countries, we will have like 500 population, right? So how do you see the hidden potential that should be developed between both countries, Ambassador?
Yes, so I think the main reason why I'm so excited and grateful to be serving as the US ambassador to Indonesia is the enormous potential for our two countries to deepen and broaden our partnership. It's already very good, very strong. So for example, we have this month the Garuda Shield exercise, which is our main bilateral military exercise that involves thousands of troops from both countries. What's really exciting this year is that at Indonesia's initiative, we have expanded participation in the exercise to include 12 other countries. So it's transitioned from a bilateral exercise to a much broader exercise. And I think that's an exciting development for the US-Indonesia strategic partnership. And it indicates the enormous and deep commitment of both countries and both militaries to strengthen our ties. And of course, on the economic front, the news is also very positive. Last year, our bilateral trade in goods increased by 30% to $36 billion. But I believe that there is enormous potential for us to do more, and I look forward to working with the Indonesian government and the private sector to make sure that we are expanding trade as much as we can be.
If we are back to the G20 summit, we are focusing on how do we do the economic recovery, right? And the foreign minister had held in Bali by this July, and then there will more than 100 discussion with it online and offline that will be held until the summit that will be held in November 2022. So how do you see the effectiveness of those discussions?
I think both Minister Retno and Minister Mulyani did an outstanding job of organizing meaningful and productive discussions on some of the most urgent challenges that we all face together, including, as I mentioned, food shortages, skyrocketing prices. So naturally, food security was one of the main focuses of those ministerial discussions, and I know that minister after minister called on Russia, urged Russia to stop blocking grain shipments out of Ukraine. Secretary of State Blinken and Treasury Secretary Yellen, who attended the G20 meetings in Bali, also appreciated the opportunity to have in-depth bilateral discussions with their counterparts, Minister Retno and Minister Mulyani. So I think it was a very productive session for both foreign ministers and finance ministers.
It's quite productive discussion, right? So how do we use the leadership of G20 this year? Can G20 avert the recession? Given that we know the situation right now, we are facing the crisis, the tension, everything related to economic recovery is quite hard by this year. How do we see that one?
So I think it's incredibly important that Indonesia is actually presiding over the G20 this year, because as I mentioned, it's such an important moment for global economy recovery, and of course to sort of make sure that we have the kind of strong health infrastructure going forward so that we can deal more effectively with pandemics of the future. I think Indonesia has shown great leadership in identifying the key issues of greatest concern and interest to the international community, and also facilitating productive discussions on those issues.
Ambassador, you've mentioned about the everything related to the crisis that happened today, and the latest summit held between U.S. Saudi U.S. 2022, right? That also talking about how do we tackle about the energy crisis, energy policies, and if we summarize that one, the goal would be how do we the world recover the economy, right? It's not only between U.S. and Saudi, but also the GCC plus 3, Iraq, Jordan, and also Egypt. So if we put those moments into this kind of situation, where we are hosting the G20 presidency, how do you put that one? How do we tackle the economic global by gathering those moments, Ambassador?
Yes, so energy is obviously a very relevant topic for the G20 discussions this year. We believe that how countries harness energy transition to create a more broader sharing of economic growth will be a key factor in economic competitiveness in the long run. The US and Indonesia have been working very closely on climate, and of course a key feature of our climate efforts is the energy transition from fossil fuel to renewables. And that's an ongoing effort, and I'm excited that we're partnering together to find ways to strengthen not just our transition to renewables, but us helping other countries also move towards clean energy.
Would it be affected to our bilateral relation about that one? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a central feature of our bilateral relations. We have engaged in very close discussions with Indonesian government officials. Most recently, when Secretary Yellen was in Bali for the finance ministers meeting, she had meetings, separate meetings with both Minister Luhut and Minister Mulyani. And I would say probably the most important topic for those bilateral discussions was how we work together on climate, including energy transition.
Absolutely, with our two great ministers, right? Finance Minister and Foreign Minister of Republic of Indonesia. Ambassador, the G20 summit will be held in Bali this November 2022. The confirmation of the attendance of President Biden, we are really waiting about the confirmation about his attendance. Which kind of confirmation that you will share to us about his attendance, and what kind of bilateral relation that he will develop and highlight about bilateral relation between two countries?
So I don't have any update or confirmation regarding President Biden's travel in November, but I can assure your viewers that the U.S. continues to support Indonesia's G20 leadership, and the fact that we had very senior ministers like Secretary of State Blinken and Treasury Secretary Yellen visit Bali for the G20 ministers, I think demonstrate our commitment to working with Indonesia to address these global challenges and to support Indonesia's leadership of the G20.
4 months until the G20 summit November 2022. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sang Kim, for the interview and for the explanation to us to road to G20 in Indonesia. Thank you very much for having us here and for the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.